Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new here, hi. My name is Donna. Nice to meet you. For those of you not new here, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support my channel. Hi to you also. Today we are doing the next installment of my palette roulette series, in which I let an app choose a palette for me. I utilize it throughout the week. I come back to you, I discuss my findings or my experiences, show you some live swatches, show you some pictures of the eye looks that I created with this palette, and then we pick a new palette. And this is like episode 106, so 106 weeks of this, and it's not getting old to me. Is it getting old to you? I sure would like to know. Today's palette is a drugstore option I'm so excited about, and it is the BH Cosmetics Avocado Toast palette. It does come in a sleeve, so this is what the sleeve looks like, and the sleeve does have all the information about the palette that you could ever want. And then this is what the actual palette looks like. I kind of really dig this more than I dig this. I think that there's just a little bit too much avocado toast going on. Like they could have just left it with that one avocado toast on there. I mean, just personal preference, I guess. I do love the front of the cover though, with the little toasts and the little avocados with the hearts. So the back of the palette is very reminiscent of the back of the sleeve, so I love the shade of this palette. The green on it is very, very cute. This palette does come in at 4.9 stars on Ulta Beauty with 18 reviews. It comes in at 4.9 stars on BH Cosmetics with 135 reviews, and there were quite a few actually less than 3 stars reviews on that, so I'm trusting that 4.9 stars. And then on the Google website, it comes in at 4.7 stars there with 973 reviews, so quite a few more. What I would say about that is that I noticed that not every single one of those reviews was about this palette in particular, so there's that might be a little bit skewed. This is, like I said, a drugstore brand. This is BH Cosmetics. It does retail for $18, and you do get 16 shades in the palette, and this is what they look like. You do get a nice size mirror as well. So this palette does have 0.56 ounces of product in it, so each one of these pans is 0.035 ounces of product, which is just roughly the same size as like the EBH shadow pans. These do look a little bit bigger than the shadow pans in an ABH palette, but they're roughly the same size. This is a vegan and cruelty-free palette, and it is also categorized as extra clean, which means there's just a whole lot of chemicals that are not a part of this, and I can go through and read those for you, but I didn't write them all down in my notes. Like I said, there are 16 shades in this palette, as you can see, and there are mattes, shimmers, and there is also one glitter formula in here, and that is this guy right here called Avocado. I thought that was cute. There is also one pressed pigment in here, and it is this shade here called Pit, and it is considered a pressed pigment, which means it's not safe for eye use. I will tell you, this is not safe for eye use because the FDA has really obsolete, antique-ish mindsets as far as cosmetics and what is safe in cosmetics and what is not. What is in this pressed pigment may very well be okay for eye use in another country. In the United States, it is not. I didn't really have any kind of issues with using that shade. I do know that with pressed pigments, there is the potential of eye staining. There's also the potential of irritation. It does say that if you notice some sort of irritation, discontinue use of the product. I didn't notice any of that. It is a really nice, like, reddy brown shade, and I didn't have any problems with it. I did use it quite often. I wish I could say that I filmed this eye look. I did not. I have been coming to these palette roulettes as of late with the eye look that I created for the day recorded, and you guys get to see it later on. I didn't record this one. I kind of wish I had. It gives me Grinch vibes. Honestly, it's the perfect like Christmassy look. Let me know if that's something that you're interested in. There's a lot of videos that you'll see over the next month that I utilize this palette to help create, and if that's an eye look that you want to see recreated, please let me know. Just go through my description box. At the very bottom of my description box, I do tell you what is on my face. If this palette is the palette that I'm using on my eyes and you love that eye look, please let me know. I can recreate any one of those eye looks, obviously. I have to say, I love this palette. It makes me want to get the Blueberry Muffin palette. Blues and greens are not necessarily something that I love to play with on my eyes, just because I feel like I don't know how to maneuver through a blue and a green to the level that I need to make them look good on my eyes. I think that this looks fantastic though, so maybe I'm changing my mind, but I have been playing with blues and greens a lot lately. When these palettes first came out, I wasn't. I would say recently, like within the last 2-3 months is when I have really been dabbling in that blue and green on in my eye looks a little bit more and trying to really perfect that for myself. These came out over the summer, so just a little earlier than what I really have been gearing towards. But there is also a Blueberry Muffin palette that is this very same formula that I think I need to try as well. But this palette is one from their Weekend Vibes collection. Their Weekend Vibes collection has a little bit of everything in it. It has a blush palette, it has a bronzer and highlight palette, which I also own. It's called the Belgian Waffle palette. They have other eyeshadow palettes, they have lip glosses, they have all kinds of products in this Weekend Vibes collection. I've heard nothing but amazing things about the products in this Weekend Vibes collection. BH Cosmetics is a cosmetics company that I sat on for quite some time. By the time BH Cosmetics had come into my life, I had already tried e.l.f. eyeshadows and kind of hated them. I had tried Makeup Revolution eyeshadows and kind of hated them. I had this really poor taste of drugstore makeup in my mouth, and so when I kept hearing all these great things about BH Cosmetics, I was like, drugstore, no thank you. My friend Lisa has the Zodiac palette, and she raved and raved and raved and raved and raved about the Zodiac palette for the longest time. And I'm not saying that that was my tipping point for BH Cosmetics, but what was my tipping point for BH Cosmetics was probably the Weekend Festival palette. Amazing quality palette. I've done a palette roulette on it. I will go ahead and link it up in the cards. I enjoyed every minute of playing with that, and the quality of those shadows was outstanding. That palette, in addition to a couple other ones that I had tried for the next, I don't know, couple months, really was the ceiling point for me trying the Zodiac palette. I finally bit the bullet and decided to purchase that palette, and when I did, man, you guys, I was just floored at the quality of those shadows. The shimmers in that palette are above many other brands that I have tried, high-end, luxury, other drugstore for sure, but so phenomenal, so beautiful, so gorgeous. So that really drew my attention to BH Cosmetics on the RealReal, and I started getting more interested in some of the things that they were putting out. Did that mean I was buying them? Not necessarily, but when this Avocado Toast palette came out, I was like, yes, I have to have that palette. Something inside of me was like, greens. I guess it wasn't immediately after it came out though, because like it came out in June-ish, I want to say. I didn't start feeling the need to have this in my collection until roughly September, when one of my friends did a collab with another YouTuber here and used this palette on her eyes, and I was like, oh my god, I have to have that palette. It's so pretty. Her name is Melly. She is amazing. I will link her channel down in my description box. What you're getting from this palette is a drugstore price point. $18 is not bad for 16 shades. It's just over $1 per pan. You're getting warm and cool tones in this palette, and many of them are earthy and very neutral and very nicely can create a very work appropriate eye look if this isn't a work appropriate eye look for you. It is for me. But if it's not for you, you can definitely get a work appropriate eye look out of this. It's a very versatile palette because of the tones that are in this. You're getting a range from very light shades like this peachy color here called Pink Salt and this yellow color here called Over Easy, to very deep tones like this kind of like blackish color called Holy Moly, it's in my eye look today, and this dark brown called Pit. So you're getting a little wide variety of shades here. You're getting some peachy tones, some yellow tones, some green tones, a little bit of chartreuse thrown in there, some browns. It's a very, very versatile palette that you can do a lot with. And I think that you'll see that in the pictures that I throw up here and the eye looks that I created. Like, there are some eye looks that I wore that you would have probably never guessed came from this palette. The pigmentation in this palette is on par with many of the high-end brands that I have. It didn't take much to get the pigmentation that I wanted out of the colors that I used in my eye look today, and they are crazy blendable. These are probably the easiest greens that I have in my entire collection to blend. And that's saying a lot because I have some really high-end greens that are just the roughest. Just the roughest. I didn't have any patchiness with this to speak of at all. I think I dealt with a little bit of patchiness in the lighter green that I'm wearing today, which is this one here. But I think it was more about how I was trying to blend it, like the brush I was using versus the shade itself. Because as soon as I put that brush down and picked up a different blending brush, it blended like a dream. It was perfectly fine. And the darker colors blending into the lighter colors didn't create any kind of void or any kind of mist or any kind of skipping. It was actually the easiest greens to blend, in my opinion, for what I have in my collection. You guys know my collection is pretty extensive. Even the darker shades blend so beautifully. All of the shades in this palette are really soft and feel silky to the touch. Like, I could dig my finger into any one of these shades and not feel that grippiness that you sometimes feel, especially with pressed pigments. You definitely don't feel it with that one either. And even these shimmers, even this down here, which is actually a glitter, is still pretty soft and silky to the touch. Sometimes with glitters you can also see a lot of the like texture in your eyes. I didn't see the texture from this glitter either. These metallics are beautiful. I am wearing two different metallics on my lid today. I'm wearing these two shades here. So this one is from the inner corner clear to like halfway into my eye look, and then this one is the outer, like from half to almost outer edge of my eye look, and then I've got this green buffed into it on the very outer corner. I don't feel like these shimmers show texture at all. They go on very smoothly. They go on just as well with your finger as they do with a dense brush, which I was so happy to report, because some of the glitters or the shimmers that I've been dealing with lately, you have to use your finger. And if you guys are at all familiar with my channel, if you're here for episode 106, you know I hate dipping my fingers into my eyeshadows, into my makeup, period. I hate getting that makeup feel on my fingers. If I have to use my fingers to make a shimmer perform, I will do it. I just don't like it. It takes points away from the palette for me. Maybe not for you, but for me it does. The only one that I feel like could probably perform better with a finger is this one here, which is that glitter formula, but I didn't have any problem packing it on my eyelid with a dense brush either. So I did experience a lot of fallout, a lot more fallout than I would with my finger probably, but I don't think it performed any better or worse with a brush. These are very consistent shadows. I do think that you're going to get the same kind of performance, the same kind of like pigmentation expectation solidified with every single one of these shadows that you dip your brush into, no matter what. Even the harder shades, I think, to formulate, which would be like this green here, I think is a hard one to formulate. Maybe even this one here would be a hard one to formulate. I think you get the same pigmentation out of those and performance out of those as you do any of the other shadows in this palette. I think that eye primers are going to be necessary for longevity. I would say that they're not necessary for performance. I think that these shadows still glide on your eyes very nicely. I think that they blend very nicely with or without a primer, but for longevity purposes, you're going to want to use a primer with these shadows. I did use them twice this week without a primer, and my eye look, I was lucky if I got a good 5 hours out of those eye looks without primers before I noticeably saw fading or movement in my shadows. And with a primer, I'm seeing a good 8 hours, maybe even more. So that primer is going to be a huge benefit to those of us that need to wear our eyeshadows for longer in the day than what 5 hours gives us. So another thing that I would say about the shimmers in this palette versus the shimmers that I've dealt with before with BH is that I wouldn't say that these are as impactful as the shimmers that they have in their baked formula. But that's pretty much across the board. I feel like something that you could experience with any brand out there. So I'm not saying that that is shame on BH. I'm just saying don't go into like these shimmers expecting the same kind of impact that you get from the Zodiac palettes shimmers, because you're going to be sorely disappointed. But these shimmers are really quite beautiful shimmers. This black is probably my least favorite black in my collection because it's not really a black. It is in my eye look today. It is this darker color out here. I did pack a green on top of it because it performs more like a gray. It reminds me of like the inside of an avocado where, you know, the avocado pit is, and then it can kind of get like that like olivey black around the pit. That's what the black in this palette reminds me of, and maybe that's on purpose. It's not the most outstanding black. I think it's more kind of a gray tone than anything else. I'm okay with that. That's not a deal breaker for me. I have a ton of other black shadows that I can pull from if I want to. Sometimes with blacks that are black, you can go way too far, way too quickly and just destroy your entire eye look, and it can become frustrating for a lot of people, right? So I think it's good sometimes to have a black that isn't quite black. There is a slight bit of fallout with this palette, but not a lot, and there's not also a lot of powder in the pan, so they do seem to be a little more firmly pressed, but not like hard pan firmly pressed. I wouldn't say any of them had any problems having pigmentation on the brush the way I expected them to have it, so that was nice because it did give me the pigmentation I wanted, but didn't create a lot of mess in the palette itself. And then putting it on my eye, I didn't notice any kind of fallout really to speak of. Like little bits and pieces, I did wipe away my under eyes today. I do my base last, so it's not a huge ordeal to me to have some fallout with my eye looks. But this one did create some, but not a whole lot. I would say the worst one for it is this one here. But then again, I didn't use my finger with it. I did use a brush with it, and I also didn't use a glitter glue, and it stayed on my eye really well for a glitter that you would expect a lot of fallout from. These are very nice shadows. They're very versatile shadows. I think it's a very versatile palette. And I am going to, even though there's 16 shades here, I don't typically swatch a palette this big. I am going to swatch these for you so you guys can see really the versatility to this palette and really go over the colors in the palette. There is no listing online that gives you the palette shades. It shows you swatches but doesn't really explain the shades to you, so I thought that it would be important to do this in this palette Roulette, and these are the first 4 shades in the palette. So the first one we have here is Avocado. Avocado. It is actually the most glitter bound of the shades on there, but you guys can see it is a beautiful stark champagne-y shade. I think that this is probably was one of my favorites to use in my brow bone and my inner corner. Then we have a matte in the palette, and this one swatches not super great because it is such a light salmon pink color. This one is called Pink Salt. It's a really great transition color or something to use to help buff out some of the shadows in this palette, because it's on my skin tone, it dang near does not show up. And then we have Expansive, which is a really pretty like rose gold shimmer. And then we have this one, which is called Spicy, and it is kind of like a really deep olive toned copper. Then we have the next 4 in the palette, and this one on the end is called Lemon Pepper. This was the other one that was a favorite of mine to put in my brow bone in my inner corner. It is what is in my brow bone and inner corner today. It is a yellow toned shimmer. Then we have Avo Toast, which is a really like limey shade of green. It is a matte and it is in my brow bone area of my eye look today. This one's in my eye look today too. Then we have Ripe, and that is a really nice like Kelly green matte. This is also in my eye look today. It is what I tapped on top of the black shade. This one here, which is called Haas, and it is a really limey gold shimmer. Those are the first 8. So you can see my fingers did get a little bit stained. Greens typically do this to you. These are the next 4 in the palette. I love this row. Okay, so this one first is called Over Easy, and it is a matte yellow, kind of like a really pastel yellow almost, with kind of like this grungy kick to it. I don't know, it's just the weirdest tone of yellow, but this shade shows up really well on my skin tone. It is a really nice transition shade as well, and a really great one to buff out a lot of the greens in the palette. Then we have this one here called Superfood. It is really just kind of a grungy green tone. Then we have this one called Paprika, and it is a nice, really orangey, like terracotta orange matte. And then this one, which is called Pit, and this one is your pressed pigment in the palette. All 4 of these shades are matte. This Pit shade does tend to sway a little bit more on the paprika side when you're putting it into an eye look, and if you use Pink Salt to blend it out, it actually looks pink. It isn't an eye look that I did yesterday as a cut crease eye look, and it looks very, very kind of maroon and dark pink in that eye look. All right, these are the last 4 in the palette. This black one is in my eye look today. So we have the first green in here is called Green Juice, and it is a really pretty minty green. It kind of shifts on the eye though. I don't see it shifting out here. I wouldn't necessarily call it a duochrome, but it is a beautiful minty green shade. And then we have this one here, which is kind of more of a teal, and it is called Guac. I definitely wouldn't have called this shade Guac. I don't know, maybe Superfood, maybe switch the names of this one and that one and make, you know, them like flip-flop their names, because this doesn't look like it should be called Guac. I think that you could definitely make this like a blue in your eye look, but with this color, it shows up very, very green. That is called Extra. That is a beautiful shimmer. I wore this all over the lid one day. It's got kind of this duochrome effect to it. It definitely looks kind of duochrome on an eye look too, and I loved this shade. It was so, so pretty. And then we have our black, which is called Holy Moly, which performs more like a gray. And it does kind of in this appear to have a little bit of a shiny base to it, which is very odd because I don't think I noticed it at all in an eye look. I feel like it shows up very, very much like a matte in any eye look that you put it into. I think hopefully you guys were able to see just the versatility that really does stem from this palette. I think that you could get a really beautiful, work appropriate kind of eye look from this and be perfectly happy with this palette for reasons of those pops of color, but also for those work appropriate looks. And I also feel like it does give you enough of a color story that you're not going to, even if you are doing work appropriate eye looks 5 days a week, that you're not ever going to have to deal with the same work appropriate eye look every single day of that 5-day work week, because there is quite an extensive array of colors alone in this palette. So I think that this is perfect for the person who maybe isn't so familiar with greens, or maybe isn't so excited about using greens on their eyes, but really loves the color, really wants to dabble in it just a little bit. And the reason why I say that is because of how easy they were to use, how beautiful the eye looks came out. I know greens is a hard formula, and I know that because I have a whole collection behind me full of greens and palettes that just don't work. And these greens are so easy to work with. In addition to all the other colors that you get, all the other shades that you get in this palette that are a breeze to work with, that this is an amazing palette. I 100% recommend it. I 100% stand behind it, and I could kiss BH for this formula. I'm really happy with that palette. I'm actually thinking about picking up the Blueberry Muffin palette as well, just because I would like to see if those blues are just as easy to work with as these greens. Now would be the time. I mean, Black Friday sales, Cyber sales, those are all going on right now. I think BH has their website has up to 75% off their products right now. Now is the time. If you want to pick up something, do it now. I just don't know if I'm solid in needing that palette. You guys, when you see what I've picked up in November and what I picked up for Black Friday sales, I am just, yep, I need to pause. And it's a drugstore option, so the price point is not bad, whether it's 75% off or not. So there's that. I am going to go ahead and pick a new palette. For those of you who are not aware, I do have a Samsung Note 9. I pick my palette utilizing an app that I picked up from our Play Store on the Android system, and it is called the Decide Now app. This is what it looks like. It is just like a Wheel of Fortune type app. I started off with every palette I owned in here. As I haul them in, I put the new palettes in. As we do palette roulettes, or I declutter those palettes, I do take them out. So to pick a new palette, we just push the button right there, the blue one in the middle, and it spins the wheel and we get a new palette. I got the Morphe, oh my god, we just had a Morphe palette. Morphe 39S, such a gem palette, and I'm actually kind of excited about this palette. I know you see it. I'll be right back. Okay, for somebody who doesn't really typically like the Morphe formula, here's what I have to say. Morphe does amazing things with promoting and launching a palette, because when this palette came out, yes, it is one of those big ones that's bigger than my head. I can hide behind it. When this palette came out, it was all displayed and beautiful, and there was all kinds of lovely like purple and pink stuff to go along with it, because this is what the palette looks like. You guys, I love me some pink and purple eyes. So I am so stoked to have this in my palette roulette for the week. I'm really excited to try it, because you will see I haven't even touched it. This is, I mean, this is exciting for me, because this is a palette that I've had in my collection for like a year and I haven't touched it. What I do not like about Morphe, besides the fact that their formulation is, you know, just kind of meh. I mean, it's not an amazing formula. It's also not a bad formula. So I'm just going to start there. What I don't like is that all the names of the shades come on these things, and I wish They would just stop doing that. I cannot wait to play with it. I cannot wait for you guys to see some of the eye looks that I create with it. And I cannot wait to come back to you next week and give you my review. If you guys have the Avocado Toast palette or the Morphe Such a Gem palette, I would love to hear your thoughts on either one of those palettes down in my comments section. Do you feel the same way about the Avocado Toast that I do? I would love to hear that from you as well. I think it was kind of a controversial statement, me saying that I think that those grains perform a lot better than some of the higher end grains that I have in my collection, but it's so amazing that we can get such amazing shadows for such a small price point. I would love to know what your thoughts are on the Morphe Such a Gem palette as well, if you have that. You guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that it finds you well. I hope that you enjoyed it enough that you're considering giving it a big thumbs up. It really does help our channels out here. Tells YouTube, hey, there's people liking these videos. Maybe we should push them out to other people. It helps my channel grow, and it's totally free to do. In addition to that, I hope that you liked it or me enough that you're considering subscribing to my channel before you go. I do upload content 3 to 4 times a week. So if you do subscribe, please don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you're notified every single time I upload content. I would hate for you guys to hit subscribe and then never see anything from me in your feed. So please hit that notification bell before you go. In addition to that, this is the month of December coming up tomorrow. So you will see video content from me every single day throughout the month of December. I do Vlogmas every single year. I just love doing it. It's like I personally challenge myself to get something up every day. You guys, I'm not monetized. I'm not making any money out of it. So it's not, for me, it's not about making money. It's about making content for you guys. I just love doing it. So it's a huge challenge for me, and I hope to be able to be successful this year. I think last year I did really, really good up until like a couple days after Christmas, and then I kind of lost traction. So there's that. It's hard. It's hard work. Like, give a YouTuber kudos for doing all the crazy stuff that they have to do over Vlogmas when they're doing it, because most of the time a person is doing it for the money purposes, and it's hard. It's hard work. I hope that you give this video a big thumbs up. I hope that you like me enough that you're considering subscribing before you go. I hope that you guys are well, and that your families are well, and that you're staying safe in this, you know, crazy environment that we live in right now. I hope that you are all wearing a mask when you're out in public, because we're never going to get out of this if we're not wearing masks. And do it for yourself, if for no other reason. You never know when somebody's going to be walking around asymptomatic, spreading their germs out to everybody on the planet. And I would hate for one of you, my peoples, or anybody to have to deal with that. It's scary. It's a scary, scary thing. So please wear your masks, you guys, when you're out there in public. Keep yourself safe. Keep your family safe. Please love each other, but love each other from afar. And until next time, everybody, bye. Oh, hey, also let me know if you want me to recreate this eye look. I will definitely do it. Let me get all up close and personal so that you guys can see it. Let me know if you want me to recreate it in a video, because I will definitely do that. I'll like title it Grinch Vibes, because I definitely get Grinch vibes from it.